Hi everyone! Today we're making a heavy-duty tomato cage that's also good for supporting other large vegetables like watermelon and squash. Now I'm going to use it to support my tomato for the 2019 tomato grow-off. It's going to be heavy enough to support all those tomatoes we're going to be growing so we can win the contest. Thanks for hanging out with us in the garden today. Let's get working. Now for this project, I'm using 2 sheets of concrete remesh that are 7 feet long, 3.5 feet tall. And what we're gonna do is stack them on top of each other, attach them together, form them into a circle for a super duper heavy duty tomato cage. So I'm also gonna be using 2 8-foot poles to help support the tomato cage in the ground. Now, first of all, I need to trim about 1 foot off of each concrete mesh sheet so that when the cage is formed into a circle, it fits the space that we're growing in. So I'm just gonna lay it down here on the grass, and I'm gonna use a pair of heavy-duty bolt cutters for this job on my safety glasses. Now each section of the remesh is 6 inches, so I'm gonna cut 2 sections off. It'll be 1 foot shorter and make the perfect size cage for the space we have. So I have both pieces of my concrete remesh cut down to size, and look, I have a nice little garden fence. Maybe I'll spray paint it red and use it to edge another garden bed so nothing is wasted. Now what I'm gonna do is lay out my concrete remesh sheets and attach them together. So this is gonna be about a 6.5 foot tall cage. So I'm gonna overlap the 2 pieces so it's nice and sturdy, and then attach them together with cable ties. I like using cable ties as opposed to wire for this part because it can get nice and tight. So it's a nice sturdy attachment. I'm going to do that all the way down the line here. And attaching every other square with cable ties is sufficient to hold this thing together. So we've got one here, skip a square, and then we've got one here. So we have our 2 pieces of concrete remesh attached. Now what we need to do is stand it up, tall side up, and form it into a circle for our cage. Does take some muscle. Make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. Get the top piece first. So we got one at the top. We're also going to attach one in the middle here.
Let's go in the middle for now because of the pressure.
Okay. And you can see it's a little bit more of a teardrop shape than a circle, but I am going to attach every square on this part just because of the pressure on the cage. We don't want it snapping open. So we've got our cage attached. It's quite tall, so I'm going to have to stand up here on the step to snip off all the cable ties. So I'm actually going to flatten this out just a little bit, or at least form it into a little bit more of a circle. And then we're going to take it over to our growing space. I'm going to be installing our heavy-duty tomato cage in the raised bed that Jerry and I built a few weeks ago. Right here in this little spot is where I'm going to be growing my contest tomato. So we're just going to try it on here for size. Looks like we have to muscle in here just a little bit. It's going to be a perfect fit. There's going to be a nice little raised bed to grow this tomato. What I need to do first though, before I install the cage, is add some amendments to the soil, because we've used this soil a couple of times for planting, so it definitely needs some more nutrients. Then we'll install the cage, install the drip irrigation, and get the plants in. Now I'm going to mend this garden bed just like I do all over my garden. Add some of my own homemade compost. Just dump a whole bunch in here. It's going to add some nice, good organic nutrients to the soil. So I am going to be planting tomatoes, and they love all that good compost. And I'm also going to put in some good dirt soil conditioner. It really helps aerate the soil. It has peat moss in it, which is a great soil aerator and also helps it retain moisture. It's also full of good nutrients too. So I'm going to put about 1/2 of a bag of good dirt soil conditioner in. We'll break that up in a second. Now I'm going to add some of the Vermistera worm castings. Now this trio of compost, Vermistera worm castings, and good dirt soil has really served me well and really helped my garden be healthy and productive. Now the worm castings help encourage the beneficial bacteria and microbes And we all know that worm poop is absolutely incredible fertilizer. So I'm really just throwing in a few handfuls. No exact science to this, guys. And I'm gonna water it down and mix it in. Now I do like to pre-moisten my soil before I plant. I just find that in our hot, dry climate, it really helps the soil retain moisture for longer and really helps the plants get off to a good start without drying up in the heat. So here I'm just going to move some soil aside because I want to drop the cage as deep into the garden bed as I possibly can. So you could also install your cage before you put your soil in if that works better for you. Now let's get our cage in. Move some more of the soil aside. Now I'm just going to scooch the soil over, kind of even out the garden bed here, and then we'll get our drip irrigation in. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. So now I'm going to install the drip irrigation. I tied this line in to the rest of the irrigation in our garden with the landscape staples, and I'm going to run the 1/4-inch drip hoses all throughout the garden bed so it gets the moisture that it needs. Now let's get these poles in here for a little bit of extra support for our tomato cage. Just going to weave it through the cage and pound it into the ground. Be nice and sturdy. Now comes the fun part, getting the plants in. So I'm gonna plant my beefsteak tomato for the tomato grow off. Now remember when we started these seeds with Camera Guy, he's my good luck charm, so I'm hoping it works. Now all the seedlings look really good, but I can only plant one. And I think this is the one I'm gonna choose. It just looks nice and healthy and strong, and I think it's gonna grow me a lot of tomatoes. I'm also gonna plant some basil over here that we started from seed, from the herb garden seed collection, and some marigolds, because that really does help repel the pests. So first off, let's get our tomato in. Tomatoes like to be planted deep, so I'm gonna dig as deep of a hole as I can here in this garden bed. Now the bottom of this garden bed is lined with landscape fabric. It was down in this spot when we put the garden bed in, and I did cut a hole in the landscape fabric so the tomato roots have no problem going down nice and deep. Now I transplanted the tomato seedling from a peat pellet into this little Smart Pots transplanter about a week or so ago while I was hardening it off. And I love these transplanters because they really make it easy to get your tomato plants out and to get them transplanted. And look at the roots coming through. Those look so nice. They're gonna grow some nice healthy fruit. So one reason why I do like this tomato cage using the concrete remesh is because the squares are nice and large for you to tend to your plants. And I'm gonna add an extra little handful of worm castings into the hole. And I'm gonna plant my tomato as deep as I can into the hole and just leave the top set of leaves sticking out. And this is pretty exciting, guys. I have my tomato planted for the tomato grow off. If you haven't entered yet, head over to the Gardening Coast to Coast Facebook page, check out the rules, and also check out Gary over the Rusted Garden and Jess at Roots and Refuge, because they're growing a challenging tomato too. Now we're gonna pop in some delicious Italian large leaf basil. And basil and tomato make great companion plants, and they go well together in the kitchen too. Then we're gonna pop some marigolds along the front of the garden bed and in the back of the garden bed just for that extra pop of color. The bugs don't like the smell of marigolds, so it helps keep the bugs off my tomato plant and off my basil. Now I want to get these plants off to a good start, give them a nice dose of nitrogen to provide that nice leafy growth. So I'm putting in the Good Dirt plant food, 3 pumps here in this gallon of water. And I'm also going to mix in some of the Vermistera worm tea, which will really help keep the plants healthy. About a half a cup or so. Water them down, and we're supposed to get some really hot weather over the next couple of days. So I'm really hoping these plants take off. I've got some catching up to do. I think Jess's tomatoes are already pretty large. What I may end up doing too is coming out here and throwing some shade cloth over these plants, just because it's supposed to be in the 90s over the next couple of days and it'll protect them from the heat. And I think Gary's doing an update video on his tomatoes too this weekend. He's planting his in one of the CaliChem Purple Mini Smart Pots. So make sure you head over and check out his video too. And subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of our future update videos. This challenge is going to be a ton of fun. And I'm really loving this cage. It's nice and tall. I can just envision it filling out and overflowing with tomatoes very soon. So there you have it, guys, a DIY super heavy duty tomato cage to grow yourself some wonderful tomatoes or other large vegetables. Comment below, let me know if you're gonna build one and if you're entering the 2019 tomato grow off. Head to my website, calichemgardenhome.com, pick up some seed collections and grow yourself some nice, fresh, tasty vegetables. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.